In a dark hallway, Abel and Abyss are having a conversation about Abyss' devil eye. Abel wants to use his eye for good and make it his tool. At the same time at Mash's house, when he and his friends defeated Land, sat Regro and Brad drinking tea. Regro was concerned that people would still find out that Mash couldn't use magic, and Brad was worried that if Mash failed, he would be in very big trouble. Regro wondered why Brad wasn't at work but was always sitting at his house and offered him more tea. Brad said that he is building up his screen time. Mash and his friends got into a victory celebration. The friends constantly complimented Mash. Abel and Cuth didn't understand how they could bounce around for so long. Mash stopped the celebration and said he needed to go to the bathroom. The guys were happy that it was over and that all the students had turned back into normal people. The guys realized that they had lost Lance and wondered where he was. Suddenly a stranger appears and throws the guys aside. He flew up to Abel and saw the wounds on his face. He realized that Abel had lost and began to humiliate him for the fact that he even in this academy could not get to the top and called him nothing. But the stranger still recognized that Abel was useful. He helped him get all the information on Principal Wahlberg. Because Abel couldn't find the right person, the stranger used magic against him and began to strangle him. At the moment when the stranger wanted to get rid of Abel, Mash wanted to celebrate the victory and brought a bunch of cakes in a plate. The stranger thought this behavior was strange. He was killing a man at that moment, and Mash was messing around with his cakes. Mash did not understand what was going on and his friends explained to him that it was not the time for pies. Finn didn't understand how Mash got so many cakes. When a fly landed on Mash, he sneezed and accidentally knocked over all the brownies on the stranger. Mash was sorry that this happened and asked for the brownies back. The friends were surprised that Mash was going to eat the brownies off the floor. The stranger thought that Mash was very cheeky and had a headache from the resonance. The stranger looked at Mash and couldn't believe that all this time he had been looking for him all over the world. He decided to finish what he had started and then think about what to do with Mash. The stranger picked up Abel and told him he was no longer needed. When the stranger used magic against Abel, Abyss suddenly appeared and sacrificed himself. Abyss apologized to Mash for not being able to keep his promise and eat brownies with him. Mash walked over to him and held out an enchanted handkerchief that healed wounds. The stranger didn't understand why he couldn't finish off Abyss, after all he had used all his power. The thing was that Mash threw a rock at him when the stranger was creating magic and Mash knocked his concentration. The stranger realized that he was not mistaken with Mash and started to humiliate Abyss and said that he was Abel's faithful dog who sacrificed his life because he was mistaken for a human. When the stranger humiliated Abyss, Mash broke the floor and attacked the stranger with a rock, but his attack was unsuccessful. Mash's friends were surprised that the stranger caught the stone without looking. The stranger licked the stone and said he would have to kill Mash, and warned him that it would hurt. Mash didn't understand why it was necessary to lick the stone and thought it was such a strange habit. Mash told the stranger that he would take Abyss to the hospital, and threatened to beat the hell out of him if the stranger tried to stop him. The stranger laughed at Mash and said that Abyss wouldn't have long to live. The stranger used magic and started attacking Mash. Mash fought off all the attacks and the stranger continued to taunt Mash. When Mash was attacked, Abel thought that he couldn't win because their powers were different like heaven and earth. He remembered Mother saying that they were lucky to be born with privileges in life. Their noble lineage, their talents, their looks, all of it had been given to them by chance. The stranger told Abel not to dare to relax and attack him, but Mash continued to repel all attacks. Abel watched the stranger's attacks and thought that he was stronger than the two of them combined. He then told Abyss that he didn't have to defend him at the cost of his life. Mash told Abel that he was happy to do this because before he met him, Abyss was always alone and in pain, so he was happy when it turned out that Abel needed him. Mash gave his word that he would save Abyss because he wanted to eat some delicious cakes too. Abel still remembered his mother, who said that all their privileges were just chance. Luck happened to give them all this, because she is blind, so it's important to be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And if you can do that, you can become a little kinder to those around you. At this time, the stranger urged Mash to accept his fate and die. While Mash fought off all the attacks, Abyss remembered his childhood, when he was called a mistake of nature and always asked why he was born. All through his childhood he felt guilty for the fact that he was brought into the world. He also remembered his conversation with Abel about his eye. Abel accepted him for who he was and told him that he didn't need to hide his eye. Abel asked Abyss to use his eye for his own purposes and Abyss felt needed. Abyss tried to talk Abel out of it, because using the devil's eye might make him feel bad too, but Abel didn't care what anyone else thought. And from that moment on, Abel gave Abis a reason to use the devil's eye for good. After the flashback, Abis insisted that Abel leave him and save his life. At this moment, Abel admired his mother and Abis for being so honorable. At this time, the stranger was still launching attacks at Mash and taunting him. Dot thought that Mash was defending literally every inch of him, but he didn't have enough time to get close to the stranger. Dot couldn't help Mash, because that would leave Finn and Lemon unprotected. The stranger was tired of dealing with Mash, so he strengthened his magic, but Mash successfully repelled his attacks. Suddenly Abel decided to help, and a huge wooden puppet protects Mash from the cobblestones. Abel said that the strong have the right to take everything from the weak, but the weak can resist the strong, and this right is given to him by nature. The stranger was puzzled because Abel was against him. Abel said that it was up to him to decide what was right and what was wrong. Abel pointed his puppet at the stranger, but the stranger used enhanced magic and the puppet shattered. The stranger said he could not be defeated by such weak magic. Mash came out of the doll's head and blew the stranger's face apart. The stranger marveled at Mash's abilities and said he was the first to break through his defenses. He asked Mash what kind of magic he had. Mash was confused and said he had muscle magic. Mash's answer was stupid, so the stranger didn't believe him and pulled out a magic mirror. The magic mirror is a powerful artifact that reflects any spell, and no matter how powerful it is, the mirror will return it twice as powerful. This thing is so dangerous that it will make any mage retreat. Dot thought all these mirrors were kept in the magic bureau and didn't understand where the stranger had gotten this mirror. Dot discouraged Mash from attacking from behind the mirror. He tried to warn him. That one little mistake could get Mash killed. Dot thought the only way to destroy the mirror was to not use magic, but Dot thought that was impossible. The stranger couldn't wait to see Mash attack and laughed at him because he thought Mash would be destroyed by his own magic. Mash calmly broke the mirror and did damage to the stranger. At that moment, Mash's friends were surprised and realized that all the times Mash had been victorious, he had used his physical strength, not magic. The friends were sure that they had just witnessed a real fantasy. The stranger shook off the shards and saw that he had a mark on his arm from his contact with Mash. He was once again convinced that Mash was the one he was looking for. The stranger said it had been a very tiring day thanks to this encounter. At the end, the stranger decided to introduce himself. His name was Selwar. He said he had to leave because he had business to attend to, but promised to meet him soon. Mash was pleased that Sel had voluntarily decided to stop hurting and leave. Mash also said that Abel needed to be rushed to the hospital. Abel said there was nothing to worry about because Abis had avoided an unfortunate outcome thanks to the healing scarf. Abis suggested that Mash eat brownies together next time. Abel promised Mash that he would personally take Abis to the doctor and see to his treatment. He thanked Mash and promised to pay him back. Mash went to his friends, but they were horrified that all this time Mash had not used magic and did not possess it at all. Mash became agitated and his voice began to tremble. He said that he had magic just like everyone else. The friends realized that Mash didn't have magic and swore to keep it a secret for Mash's sake. Dot said that if anyone found out they were covering for someone who didn't have magic, the consequences could be serious. Suddenly a voice came from the hall. It was an apprentice who had turned from a doll back into a human, and he had heard Mash's friends talking. This student was furious and shouted that if anyone found out that a person without magic was studying at the Magic Academy, there would be a huge scandal and he would have to tell the management about it. Mash's friends panicked, but Mash wasn't calm as a boa constrictor. When everyone found out that he couldn't use magic and his dream of living peacefully with his father was now in jeopardy, he decided to eat a brownie.